Thank you so much for joining us for this next episode of Live Without Training Wheels. I'm your host, Lynna Sutherland. I'm owner and author at Homeschool, mother of 8 kiddos, ages teen to toddler. I am so excited to be joined this evening by my friend, Amy Sloan. She's the author at Humility and Doxology, a blog where she writes about homeschooling and lots of other goodies. And I will let her tell you a little bit more about herself in a moment. But at this time, let me just go through a few housekeeping details so that you will feel comfortable here and make the best use of this broadcast. So I would love it if you would take a moment to share this broadcast so that others can benefit. Amy's going to share with us her wisdom and ideas about making morning time a good fit for your family. So we would love to have as many people benefit from that as possible. Of course, if you're on Facebook, you know how to share. If you're here with us in Crowdcast, there's a little button right up here that actually says invite. And if you click that, you'll see all the options that you're used to seeing for where you can share that. If you are watching from Facebook or YouTube, of course, you're welcome to keep watching from that location, but there's also a link in the video description to this Crowdcast event, and we would love to have you join us here in Crowdcast. If you are in Crowdcast, you'll get your best engagement for desktop and viewing through a Chrome browser. But if you are on mobile, that's fine too. I just recommend that you would turn your phone into landscape mode and then just click the button at the top where it says for a full screen, and then tap view chat, and that will bring the chat bar back into your perspective. So if you have any questions at any time during this discussion, click the button at the bottom that says ask a question, and put that question in the bottom, because when Amy's done sharing her ideas with us, we'll go through and take your questions, and hopefully we'll have time to get to all of them. But if you see a question in there that someone else has asked and you find that question interesting and you'd like to hear an answer, you can always upvote their questions, and we'll start at the top with the ones that have the most votes and go from there. And the cool thing about the Ask a Question feature in Crowdcast is that as we answer those questions, I get to timestamp them. So when you come back later to watch the replay, or other folks who aren't able to join us live watch the replay, they'll be able to click right on a button next to each question and jump just to the place in the video where that question is answered, making it all that much easier for our busy moms to catch up on exactly the parts of the video that they would find most helpful. Also, if you would take a moment, please, and go right up there and find my face, hover over it, and click the follow button so that you can be notified in the future when I go live with new episodes of Live Without Training Wheels each Tuesday evening. So, all that housekeeping stuff out of the way, let's get to the good part. Amy, thank you so much for joining us. Amy and I actually knew each other first in real life before either one of us were bloggers or talking on Facebook kind of people. And so I'm super thrilled to have Amy here, because she is not just a blogging, I don't know, what do you call it, co-worker or like
associate.
Yeah. But our friendship goes back even further than that. So it's a delight to get to chat with her tonight. We don't really have anything to say. We just told our husbands that we had a live video so that we could spend an hour chit-chatting. No, I'm just kidding. But I have really been looking forward to this. So thank you for joining us. Amy, just tell us a little bit about yourself and your family and your blog and what you're up to.
Thank you, Lynna, so much for having me tonight. I'm excited to get to talk about morning time, which is favorite things. So my name is Amy, and I've been married to my husband, John, for 14 and a half years now. We have 5 children, 2 boys, first and last, and then 3 girls in the middle. So we go everywhere from preschool to pre-calculus, I like to say, ages 3 to 13. So we have lots of adventures. My husband and I are both second-generation homeschoolers, which gives us a unique perspective, and it's fun to find our own way in this homeschooling community.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then I blog, sorry, I forgot, I blog at humilityanddoxology.wordpress.com. And that was sort of started a bit on a whim earlier this year, largely in thanks to you and just beginning to write. And it's been fun to get to share some of my words and thoughts there.
Yes, and Amy has been a guest poster on my blog before, and had so many good things to share that I was thrilled when she decided to start her own blog. It's for the good of the world and the broader community that she has. So tell us a little bit about, obviously all morning times are different, but what does yours look like right now with the ages and stages you have at the moment?
You know, it's interesting. I was talking to my kids earlier today and asking them for their opinion about our morning time. It wasn't really a question I had asked them. I just tell them to show up and let's do this thing. And to hear, not the 3-year-old, but to hear my 6-year-old, an 8-year-old, 11-year-old, and 13-year-old give their own unique perspectives on our morning time actually was such an encouragement, because when I asked them what were some of their favorite things about morning time, the things they brought up are the very reasons why I do morning time. My 11-year-old, it was one of those heartwarming mama moments for sure. My 11-year-old, yes, we do. My 11-year-old daughter said that morning time to her is one of the friendliest parts of our day. Isn't that beautiful?
It is so sweet.
And she said that, whereas the rest of the day, she's, more doing her own work independently and her own things. She loves that when we come together in the morning, it's something that we're all doing together, all of the siblings across the ages. And she loves that it's fun, that we're doing things that we all enjoy and delight in. And that is one of the big reasons why I've chosen to incorporate this time of day. It's something, because of my range of ages, it can be really hard to find something that is accessible and enjoyable for the 6-year-old and the 13-year-old, for example.
Yeah. Right.
And to have this opportunity where we're purposeful to be together and to develop a shared family culture, kind of inside jokes and quotes, is really a blessing.
Inside jokes, so true. Yeah, I think that's huge for family culture. Yeah,
definitely. So you have your movie quotes that your family knows, your favorite movie. So we might have some favorite Shakespeare quotes, for example, or some favorite poems that we will apply to random situations.
Mm-hmm.
So right now, this year, our morning time is actually fairly simple. I've always kept it fairly simple. I tend to find that a simple thing is more easily actually done than something that's really complicated and fancy, and then overwhelming. So it lasts. Yes. I think so often we try to do something really amazing and combine all the cool things everyone shares online, and then we never actually do it.
Yeah. So in my head, you do all the cool things online.
Oh, wow. I do think we do some cool things, but if you actually peeked in, you would think that's all. It lasts about 30 minutes right now.
30 minutes. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's only 30 minutes.
Okay.
We begin with prayer. I open in prayer, and then we always begin our morning time with something focused on scripture. So right now we're doing a children's story Bible, and that especially appeals to my younger children. My older children have heard this very story Bible before, but as a mom of many, sometimes you forget the younger kids actually didn't hear what the older kids heard.
Yes, right.
And then we have our scripture memory. And one amazing trick that we have discovered this year is actually reading our scripture passage responsively. Yeah, in the past, we would just recite the whole thing together, or I would have the kids repeat after me. Mm-hmm. And this year, I've divided it up by verse, and I will read the light print, and they'll read the dark print, and it keeps their attention more engaged through the passage. So
interesting, because they have to know what's coming next, and it's not just whatever it was you said. They have to track and read and.
Exactly. And then they enjoy, sometimes one or the other will be like, can I read the light print today? So we get to take turns that way too.
I love it.
Yeah. And so then after our Bible section, we have what I call a learning loop. And that's where we just very briefly learn something new. And this year we're focusing on 3 different things. We're working on some Greek and Latin roots, just root words, 1 new root word. We have a very simple painting exposure, where I show them a picture of a painting and I tell them what it is, and we talk about it for about 2 minutes, and that is it. And then we're doing some very basic grammar. So we just do one of those a day and just circle through the list.
And that's like a little, just 2 or 3 minute blip right there.
Exactly. It really is not that big a deal. It's not complicated. And then we do a memory loop. And the memory loop is one of our favorite parts of morning time. Our family generally finds something in there that coordinates with our history in particular, sometimes with our science, but generally with our history. So this year we're doing early American history. And so I chose excerpts from the Declaration of Independence, Patrick Henry's famous "Give me liberty or give me death" speech, a portion of a poem, and a few other early American history related items. And again, we just read it together, circle through it, and that's it. And then we close with the singing of a hymn, and the children get an opportunity to pray. So it's really short and sweet and simple.
And yet it seems like you really kind of maximized you're doing these little bits of things, and you're doing just a few things at a time. But, it sounds like you've really intentionally zeroed in on things that are going to kind of be a big bang for your buck in those little spots.
Yes. A couple things that are important to me. I've said this before. I tell this often to people in my real life. If I think about my children in 10, 20, 30 years' time, what I want them to remember, what I want to have hidden in their hearts, of course, is the Word of God, primarily. But even apart from that, when I think outside of Scripture memory, I don't necessarily want them to be able to give me a list of facts and information, although information is valuable. But when they're facing difficulty in their life, are they going to want to have a list of dates and facts? Or are they going to want to be able to recite, "Death, be not proud, though some have called thee mighty and dreadful, for thou art not so." That's one of our favorite poems that we've memorized, a John Donne sonnet. And those short things that we have taken the time to really know by heart, I think are what provide lasting impacts for our children, helping them to love what's lovely and believe what's true. And yeah. And to find ways that coordinate with what we're already studying, so that they have these beautiful, like the speech that Patrick Henry wrote is beautiful. I was going to try to make it shorter, like just pick a few parts of it. But the whole course of it was so beautiful. I was like, sorry, kids, we're going to do the whole thing. And they've loved it. And it makes all that we're studying just come more alive and be richer because of these beautiful original sources and poems and things we're reading.
Now, you seem to have a gift for this, and I know not everybody does, and you can't necessarily convey your giftedness in this area to us, but help us, because I always, when I hear the things you're doing, I think, oh, that's brilliant, and I never would have thought to do that. Or, how did you come up with, how did you pick these things that were related to early American history that you should, learn? Or how did you decide, that grammar or Greek roots would be the thing to, how do you come up with these resources or decide on what would be good to spend morning time on?
I think that actually you kind of brought up an interesting point, because you think, I would never have thought to do that. But there are things that you will think to do with your family that I wouldn't necessarily gravitate towards. And with morning time in particular, I find it a way to bring my own personality to bear in our family. It's our family culture. It's not your family culture. We love Shakespeare. I've brainwashed my children well. But another family might not enjoy it like we do, and that's okay. They don't have to do the same thing we are doing. With this whole concept of a DIY morning time, a custom morning time, it has to be in line with your own family culture. So some of these things I already love. And before we started doing a morning time, I really struggled with having these ideals and these priorities, and I couldn't figure out how to bring them into my reality. I wanted to expose my children to Shakespeare and poetry, but I could never really figure out how to fit that in our day. And so morning time just became a tool to take something I already wanted to do, and I had a systematic, planned way to do it. So in that sense, it's not like, oh no, I know, how am I going to find the right poems for my children? It's to start with what is enjoyable to you or what piques your interest, what's something that really sparks your own imagination as a mom, because enthusiasm is contagious.
Yeah.
If I tried to do something with my kids and I was like, oh, I can't believe I got to do this because some woman online told me I had to do it, they're going to be able to tell. They're going to know that I'm faking it. So enthusiasm, I guess, is actually not something you can go find as a resource, but I would start there. What do you already feel enthusiastic about? And bring your children into your enthusiasm so that they see you are a lifelong learner. This is something you enjoy too.
So you're actually doing morning time backwards from how I anticipated we would discuss it, which is fantastic. That's what makes you such a great resource. So I was anticipating like, okay, we want to do this thing called morning time. Now, what do we fill it up with? But you're saying I had these beautiful things that I wanted to share with my children, and morning time was a good container, for collecting all of those things into, so that we could make sure that we do them. I love that. I love that. So maybe instead of saying, what do I fill up morning time with? Maybe we start from the other perspective and say, what are all those things that I thought I was going to do as a part of homeschooling that don't ever end up happening, or all those things that I love, but I don't do because it doesn't seem like it's checking the boxes, because, it's not another math lesson and the next page in the language workbook and whatever.
Right.
Okay. I love that. Love that idea.
And I actually did start. I'm sorry.
Go ahead. Yep.
I did start almost that, obviously, when I first began doing a morning time, like 4 or 5 years ago. I kind of thought in my head, what are all the things I feel like I'm missing? Because I was so excited. Oh, maybe this is the answer. And I would encourage that as a first step. Like, write down a list, almost like a dream list. These don't have to be things you're actually going to, fit 25 things in your morning time. But if you're just dreaming the things you would want to share with your kids, what would those things be? I mean, I don't know. I'm thinking of my 13-year-old son. If he were somehow designing a morning time right now, he would probably want us to learn a bunch of Elvish language and excerpts from Tolkien and baseball statistics. Okay. So, bring your children along for the ride.
But so when we should do more board gaming in our morning time.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm not going to do board gaming in my morning time. I love my children, and so I play games with them, but it's not something I'm going to put in morning time.
I actually have thought about that. I thought, let's do this. We're going to play fauna or something. Okay.
Yeah.
So, all right. So talk to me about, have you ever run into a situation where you thought, okay, this is just going to be great. We are going to all love this, and it did not work. Or maybe they loved it, but it just wasn't a good fit for, the time frame or the ages that you had. Have you ever had to troubleshoot?
Yes. The thing that I always desire, I often will even put it on my morning time plan almost every single year. This fall is the first time I didn't, because I was just being realistic.
Okay.
Trying to put some sort of craft in our morning time. And I try to think, okay, I know I'm not going to get to it every day. We'll do it once a week. I mean, I can do art once a week. I can have the craft project ready. It'll be fine. And, part of it is that's my own resistance, just the thought of the mess, or the thought of, as people are running hither and there, and the 3-year-old has already dumped out all the toys. I'm just like, let's not do the craft project. So
right.
That's something I've had to kind of accept is not going to be my area of strength. I wish that were my strength. I want to. I am not at this point. Maybe one day I will be. And there have definitely been times when we have maybe incorporated, say, a read aloud into our morning time, and no one's really getting into it. And I just switch. I'll just toss that book and do something else.
So you are allowed to eliminate things from morning time.
For sure, definitely. Or there are times when there's maybe something that's not as much fun. Like right now, there was sort of a request from one of the children to do a little bit of grammar review. And I also saw that as a need, as something we weren't doing very formally. We do a lot of grammar through our writing and through our Latin. And it's not something that is any of our most favorite thing in morning time. So I choose to do it less frequently. I might do one day of grammar for every couple days of the Greek roots or the art study, for example.
Mm-hmm. Love that. So you can put aside a book that's not working in morning time.
Yes,
and go into
please.
else.
It's supposed to be delightful, right? It's supposed to be a time of shared love and delight and experience. So you don't want anybody to be miserable.
So, okay, so for those of you who are hopping on, just wanted to remind you, if you have a question for Amy, you can pop it into the Ask the Question box down there at the bottom, or the Ask the Question link, and we will be happy to discuss it later. And Amy has already kind of flipped the script on my thinking about morning time. Instead of here's a morning time, how do we fill it? To choose things that are delightful to you as moms so that enthusiasm will spread. So how do you go about evaluating things that you, I can tell that you're sharing a lot of things with your children that you already know or that you're already familiar with, like the Shakespeare and that sort of thing. But I also see you sharing, like when you got on and you did your Facebook Lives about Thanksgiving books. So are you just incredibly well read in children's picture books, or do you have a system for finding and evaluating and folding in new resources?
Well, there's sort of a two-part question. No, I'm not an expert on children's picture books, although I really do love them, and we own quite a few. It came specifically time for me to begin planning our Thanksgiving-themed morning times. I actually had some books already that I knew I owned. Hundreds of books on hold at the library, and I checked them all out.
Yeah.
Okay, so books are my superpower, I like to say. I love that. That's fun for me. I know how to skim read. I can look, if you open up a picture book in particular and the illustrations are just ugly, to read the book, toss it. That's not worth it. If a mom doesn't want to read the picture book, it's not worth reading to your children. So I also flip through and look at, the quality of the language. If I read something and it makes me laugh or it makes me cry, or not like literally cry, but that twinge in your heart, that's going to be something that I will want to share with my children. But if I'm encouraging just in general, that's something I enjoy doing. But there are so many good resources of women and men, websites, other books, people who have already done that work for you. I mean, that's something I do often at my own blog at Humility and Doxology. I'll do a book roundup. I've done that hard work for you. I took bunches of those books back to the library and didn't put them on my list. So I have a book list that you can see what might be in your library. Read Aloud Revival, and there's so many good resources. So especially if someone's feeling like this is new, this isn't an area where they feel comfortable at all, and the thought of picking out their own books is kind of scary or overwhelming, I would start with an already curated book list and start there.
Yeah, because when I look at you showing all these books, I'm thinking like, how did she know about all these books? Where did she find them? Did she, I'm thinking like, okay, I search fall and I go to the place in the Dewey Decimal System shelving and and there's 42 books and I don't know, So when you read a book in morning time, you're already somewhat familiar with it, or do you read things that are like, okay, I've skimmed it, but basically this story is new to me?
Right now in our morning time, what I call our morning time, we're not currently doing any read alouds. I excuse my oldest son, and then I do read alouds with the girls. And the books that I'm reading right now, I actually am familiar with all of them. I've either read them all the way through, or I've skimmed enough, or they've been recommended by someone whose opinion I trust.
Mm-hmm.
Last year, we actually incorporated a book in our morning time that I had not read before, and I can't even remember where I heard the suggestion, but it was this short little book. And if any of you have older children, or maybe a teen boy who's like, this morning time thing sounds dumb, I would encourage this book. It was called
I'm sure none of our listeners have that trouble.
Oh, no, I'm sure they're all enthusiastic all the time. The book title is Make Your Bed, and it's by a retired Navy SEAL, I believe, General somebody, I can't remember his name. And they were very short chapters, and they would always take a story from his experience and then kind of connect it to like a life lesson. And some of the stories were kind of gruesome. Some of them were really exciting and adventurous, and my kids just loved it. And I had never read it before. But if you're reading out loud and you're like, oh, that's not something I actually want to read to my kids, generally you have enough warning, at least a sentence in advance, that you're not going to say something. But in general, I try to be fairly familiar before I read out loud to my kids. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that works. So I've done that with like a book series. Like, okay, we've already read the first book in this series. We're going to read some more. I haven't read them yet, but I'm thinking like, okay, it's probably basically along the same lines of what we've gotten from other books in the series. Okay, so there's a couple of questions there, so we'll go to those in just a minute, but I just want to give Amy a last chance to say, or not a last chance, but an open-ended opportunity to share. If you've got just any tips or thoughts or anything else that you wanted to share with the moms related to your morning time and planning morning time, and definitely stay tuned, because since Amy mentioned to you that it's a good idea to take advantage of the resources of other moms who've collected things for you, Amy has a list for you. So she's got some goodies for Thanksgiving, and we're going to put a link to that below the video in just a minute. But Amy, go ahead and share with us any tips you'd like to leave us with.
Yeah, I guess if I can encourage moms with one thing, and this is perfectly related to morning time, but it also has broader implications, is don't be afraid to start small and to do something that's not perfect. Something that's imperfect that you actually do is always going to be better than something really fancy and perfect that never actually gets done.
Oh, so good. Yes.
So just don't be intimidated by all the fancy morning times you may have seen and think you need to include art and science and math and hands-on activity and a game and read aloud for an hour and do all these things and memorize all this stuff, and you get overwhelmed and you try it one time and you're crying and the kids are do it again. It would be so much better. No, it would be so much better to just pick one thing or two things. Do something that you love so that you have that natural enthusiasm, and then just be okay if it doesn't work, if you mess up, if the kids aren't interested. Just don't lose heart and try something imperfect.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, Amy, in other areas of life as well, Amy has been an encourager to me by saying, done is better than what? Done is better than perfect. I don't know. I can't even remember the thing now, but just, that, or I've heard other people say, give yourself the gift of done, the gift of, something you can do and you can get it completed. I love that. And it definitely, I can definitely see how that would apply to morning time as well. All right, well, let me share with you a couple of the questions that we've gotten from folks here. Amy says, do you have suggestions for dealing with the older kids or siblings who don't want to do morning time? And is it ruining this time it's ruining this time for the younger children?
That is definitely challenging with morning time or homeschooling in general. So often I find that the parenting struggles are so much harder than the actual academics or the project I'm trying to work on. So I can definitely have empathy for older children who can sometimes be facing their own struggles. I guess my suggestion would be to maybe have a conversation and find out what it is about the morning time that is frustrating to the older student. Do they feel like the content is too babyish? Is there an element of content that you could give them control or leadership over? Today, actually, I was joking about my son with Tolkien, but actually this afternoon when I was talking to him about morning time, he was like, Mom, do you think we could memorize the Mirror of Galadriel? I would really like to memorize that. And I said, go for it. Like, we can't do it right now. We're doing our, we have a different theme right now in our morning time, but type that up and print it out. I would love to incorporate that. So my first tip would be really talking and finding out if there's something that they're maybe really interested or passionate in that you could include in the morning time. Possible reason they might be frustrated is actually the time. I know I have some children who are very and they want to get it done so they can get on to their Minecraft and YouTube time or their other projects. And if they feel like I am delaying their ability to be responsible and finish their work, they can begin getting kind of frustrated. So if it's a timing issue, maybe they're feeling like I have this stuff I need to get to and this is delaying my work. I have divided morning time into a very short 30-minute time where my older son is included. And then he is excused. He knows, and I say this almost every morning, you are welcome to join us if you would like to hear the read aloud. You are always welcome, but you're also maybe excused to go. It's not that I don't want him a part of, this time, but I also respect that he has things he wants to work on. So I think that communication, finding out exactly what maybe is behind the problem, maybe the problem isn't the problem, might be a good first step.
Yeah. Just acknowledging that his concerns or interests are valid and important to you, and that you want to hear more about that. Yeah. It's good. Okay. Also from Amy, she says, is there an age you stop doing morning time, or tips on splitting the time because big kids and little kids? Okay, so you got into that a little bit, but if you have any more thoughts about ages for morning time.
Well, my oldest is only 13, so I will have to get back to you in 5 years and let you know how this turns out. My current goal is to always have some time that we are together and doing something that we're shared just for that family culture, those family memories and relationships that are so important. But I can't really speak. I don't know. There's already so many things that I thought I would never do that I'm doing. So, but yes, as I said earlier, I think that it's very appropriate to have, a time where you understand the older kids may not want to hear the nursery rhymes or whatever that you might want to do with your younger children.
So is this, just hopping back to your morning time schedule and layout, is this something you do like after breakfast, or approximately where in your day does this fall?
So right now, this actually is what starts our day. Everyone is supposedly supposed to be downstairs at 8, having eaten their breakfast, and we begin at 8. We're flexible. Sometimes it's a little later, but this kicks off our day. So we actually do it officially in morning, for our morning time. I know a lot of families do it at lunch or during an afternoon nap if there's, a baby, or even in the evening, whatever works in your family.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, yes. So you and I have talked about this before, but I've been playing around with my morning time this year because, I actually wanted to do the reverse. Like, I wanted to have some morning time with everybody, and then I wanted to have more morning time with the older kids, because I felt like, attention spans were not longer for the little ones, but there was more that I wanted to do, and more that I felt like the big kids would really enjoy and would want to do. But we have morning time, like it's actually before breakfast. So it's like, I don't know, our Bible reading and all that happens.
Okay.
For the little kids have been up for a while. The big kids sometimes kind of like roll out of bed and down to the living room for morning time. And it's very brief, but when we're done with that, that's when they have breakfast. So it's really not possible to, like they would have to miss breakfast to do it then. So anyway, I've just been playing around a little bit with how to do that and when to fit in the next thing. And because I definitely, what you said about like kids who want to get on to the next thing and want to complete their responsibilities and all that, definitely happening in our house too. Some I wish would be more like that, and some are already very much like that.
Yes.
Great. Okay, well, if you have any more questions, you have a little bit more time to pop them in the ask a question window before we log off. But right now, here's what I'm going to do. I want to show you this very cool thing that Amy has put together. She has a collection of free morning time Thanksgiving plans or Thanksgiving morning time plans. And I have, I've already downloaded them. They are really rich. She's got a huge book list. It's about 2 pages long, right, of book titles and ideas. And then different, a hymn that you can sing together, some things you can recite or memorize together, lots of goodies. And it's really beautifully laid out and it's free. So definitely click that button underneath the video. And if you are watching from Facebook, then as soon as we're done here, I will hop over and drop it in the comments on the Facebook video so you can watch, or rather click that and download it as well. But be sure to take advantage of that opportunity from Amy because she put a lot of work into it and it's a really nice resource. So we're going to be using that some in our homeschool too, reading some of those books.
Yeah, we started on Monday, so it's been fun. We've been enjoying them ourselves.
Yeah, that's great. All right, I'm going to wait just a minute in case anybody else has any questions that they want to ask. Amy, you can find her over at Humility and Doxology on Facebook if you search for Humility and Doxology. And then she's also on Instagram at Humility and Doxology. It's fun to follow her there.
And you know, I forgot to give you this link, Lena, but I actually recently recorded one of our morning times and put that video up on the blog. So it's one of the more recent posts. If you go, you can actually see the video of our family doing our morning time, complete with a 3-year-old interrupting us periodically. So
yes, I love that. So actually, I did link to that. I didn't think to link to your blog, but I just linked right to the Facebook video.
Oh, perfect.
So if you are watching this from somewhere other than the blog or my blog, Homeschooling Without Training Wheels, and you want to see some of these links, Amy's given me a link to some of her favorite poetry, things that she thinks are great to memorize in morning time, and this Thanksgiving list, other things like that. You can go to hswotrainingwheels.com/live and then look for this episode and click on it, and you'll see the show notes right below the video that will have a link to that little sneak preview of Amy's morning time plans, as well as some of the other goodies that she's left there for you guys to enjoy. So, okay, well, thank you all for joining us. Amy, thank you so much for spending your evening with us and sharing with us all of your tips for an enthusiastic morning time. Encouragement to allow mom's personality to influence what's included in morning time, because that enthusiasm for learning is contagious and it's hard to fake.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. This has been fun. Oh, I lost you.
All right, take care.